Now we will be looking at the book of Deuteronomy, which is essentially the capstone of the Pentateuch, or the 5 books of Moses. It's the final book of the series. They are in the plains of Moab. They are ready to enter into the promised land. Moses, due to his sin earlier, is not going to be able to enter with them. So he gives his final words, final teaching to the people of Israel, the new generation of the Israelites, for the old generation died in the wilderness, to prepare them for the trials and tribulations that they will face in the future yet to come. I've heard it said that Jesus, the book that he quoted from the most in the Old Testament, was the book of Deuteronomy. I've never verified that firsthand to confirm it, but it sounds about right. It would make sense too, because it's kind of a culmination of everything that we've seen before in a condensed format as a presentation to the Israelites. Deuteronomy 1:1. These are the words which Moses spoke to all Israel, still on the east side of the Jordan River, in the wilderness, in the Arabah, the deep valley running north and south from the eastern arm of the Red Sea to beyond the Dead Sea, over near Supa, between Paran and Tophel, Laban, Hazeroth, and Dizahab. 1 and 2. It is only 11 days' journey from Horeb by the way of Mount Seir to Kadesh Barnea on Canaan's border, yet Israel took 40 years to get beyond it. 1 and 3. And in the 40th year, on the first day of the 11th month, Moses spoke to the Israelites according to all that the Lord had given him in commandment to them. So we see the introduction to the book of Deuteronomy here. We see that it is the words of Moses, and we see where it was that he spoke these words, on the east side of the Jordan in this particular valley. And we see when it takes place, after the 40-year journey of wandering the wilderness, and that they are almost into the promised land. Deuteronomy 1 and 4. After he had defeated Sihon, king of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon, and Og, king of Bashan, who lived in Ashtaroth and Edrei. Now the book is mentioning some of the historic events that happened recently, with the Israelites conquering, subjugating, destroying these different people, these different kings, these different lands. I'm sure having a historic event mentioned here is beneficial in many different ways. The Israelites here that Moses is talking to, they would remember this event. This just happened a couple weeks ago or months ago in their eyes, right? It wouldn't have been that long ago. And to people in the future, they could go to these sites, they could dig up the ground, they could find pottery or other remnants of what was there, and they could find evidence of when this event occurred. So it gives multiple datings for the same particular event of when the Israelites went into the promised land. It also demonstrated the power of God in delivering them when it came to conquering these places, for they didn't have any casualties when they went. And the people here, they're all younger. They're not the same people that left Egypt, because everybody that left Egypt, they would be dead by now. They died in the wilderness wandering. So this would be a miracle that they would have seen in their own lives of what God can do when he delivers the Israelites. So it's really interesting that that's in here. I'm sure there's other reasons that are probably better than this, but I just find it fascinating. Deuteronomy 1 and 5. Beyond, east of the Jordan, in the land of Moab, Moses began to explain this law, saying, after all that preamble, Moses is going to begin his session here of teaching the Israelites, educating them on God's law, and preparing them for their new life when they enter into the promised land. Deuteronomy 1 and 6. The Lord our God said to us in Horeb, you have dwelt long enough on this mountain. Moses is an old man. He is coming to the end of his life. And in the end of the book of Numbers, we saw some events where he was continuing to teach the people of Israel, to prepare them. But he can't be with them forever. He needs to pass on so that they may pass into the promised land. And that time is now. Now being after the events of the book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 1:7. Turn and take up your journey and go to the hill country of the Amorites and to all the neighbors in the Arabah, in the hill country, in the lowland, in the south, the Negev, and on the coast, the land of the Canaanites, and Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates. 1:8. Behold, I have set the land before you. Go in, take possession of the land, which the Lord swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give to them and to their descendants after them. Moses is giving them directions on where they need to go to get to this promised land, the land that the Lord has promised them. Promises through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So throughout the different generations, this promise was reaffirmed. And now Moses is telling them, go in there, get it, take the land. Deuteronomy 1:9. I said to you at that time, I am not able to bear you alone. Moses has been with the people of Israel here for a very long time, and the older generation has all died out. So everyone that is here that he is talking to is much younger than him, and they would have grown up seeing Moses and knowing him their whole lives. And they're right at the precipice of entering into the promised land. But Moses, he can't go with them. So this is probably a tremendously sad event where the people are there gathered around Moses as Moses is talking, and he's explaining that he can't go in there with them. Deuteronomy 1:10. The Lord your God has multiplied you, and behold, you are this day as the stars of the heavens for multitude. 1:11. May the Lord, the God of your fathers, make you 1,000 times as many as you are, and bless you as he has promised you. So we have a blessing here called out to the people, that they have grown in number, that their numbers are like the stars, an innumerable amount, that there is just a significant amount of them, and that the Lord is blessing and looking after them so that they are being prosperous. Deuteronomy 1:12. How can I bear alone the weariness and pressure and burden of you and your strife? So there has been a great multitude of people, and Moses has been struggling when it comes to looking after them. Previously we saw the appointment of 70 wise men to be assistants to Moses, to help him bear the multitude. But there also needs to be a command structure, different leaders of different groups when it comes to the people, and that's what we're going to see here. Deuteronomy 1:13. Choose wise, understanding, experienced, and respected men according to your tribes, and I will make them heads over you. 1:14. And you answered me, the thing which you have spoken is good for us to do. 1:15. So I took the heads of your tribes, wise, experienced, and respected men, and made them heads over you, commanders of thousands and hundreds and fifties and tens, and officers according to your tribes. Some of the things we see in this chapter, we see out of order, that they are described in a very interesting way. Earlier in this chapter, we saw the descriptions of the different lands that the Israelites have conquered, and that happened not too long ago at the end of the book of Numbers. And now we are looking at the burden of Moses and what he had to go through when it came to looking after the Israelites. And now we're seeing this leadership structure here being described. And that was something we saw in Exodus 18. This was at the start of the Exodus when they first got out of Egypt. And there was kind of a bit of disorder and there was no organization. And Jethro, who was Moses' father-in-law, made the suggestion of having a leadership structure, picking people of a particular character and then setting them in command over different size groups so that information could be filtered down to the people and problems could be filtered up, and some of the smaller issues could be dealt with without needing Moses' intervention. And of course this happened before the 70 elders joined Moses to help him bear his burden. 1:16. And I charged your judges at that time, hear the cases between your brethren, and judge righteously between a man and his brother, or the stranger or sojourner who is with him. The judges are an important aspect of the Old Testament. We're going to see them mentioned numerous times, and there's even a book of Judges, and it's quite interesting, and I'm looking forward to when we get to it. But this is when it started, the judge system. People bringing their problems before the Lord and the Lord's representatives being able to come up with solutions to the issues at hand. People of good character resolving problems. Deuteronomy 1:17. You shall not be partial in judgment, but you shall hear the small as well as the great. You shall not be afraid of the face of man, for the judgment is God's, and the case that is too hard for you, you shall bring to me, and I will hear it. There's some really important aspects to the judges here when we see how they are supposed to operate, that they're supposed to treat the big and the small the same, and they're not supposed to give people special treatment. They're supposed to be impartial. And this is something that we see in our modern judges, or something we would like to see in them when it comes to the way that they act. And I imagine that the Israelites here and the way their judges were to be was very different than all the judges in the rest of the world at this time. A very different perspective. Deuteronomy 1:18. And I commanded you at that time all the things that you should do. 1:19. And when we departed from Horeb, we went through all that great and terrible wilderness which you saw on the way to the hill country of the Amorites, as the Lord our God commanded us, and we came to Kadesh Barnea. This is an incredibly abridged version of what we have seen previously, but that was multiple books and this is multiple sentences, so there is some things that are cut out. So they came out of Egypt, they went on their journey, they went through the wilderness. It was all harsh and not very friendly, and they got to this mountain range and they're right on the edge of where they need to go. And Moses is going to continue his story. Deuteronomy 1:20. And I said to you, you have come to the hill country of the Amorites, which the Lord our God gives us. 1:21. Behold, the Lord your God has set the land before you. Go up and possess it, as the Lord, the God of your fathers, has said to you. Fear not, neither be dismayed. So Moses is relaying to these people here their history. This is when their parents' generation were here, right on the edge of the promised land, and right before they sent the spies out. That everything was looking good, that the land was there ready for taking, and the Lord was going to lead them into the land. But that's not what happened. Deuteronomy 1:22. Then you all came near to me and said, let us send men before us, that they may search out the land for us, and bring us word again by what way we should go up, and the cities into which we shall come. We can see the weakness here in the parents' generation. They weren't fully trusting in the Lord. If they fully trusted in the Lord, they could have waltzed right in there, went into the promised land, and they could have taken them. But that's not what happened. They were weak in their faith, and they demanded spies be sent in the land to go before them, to see what was in there, to make sure that it was the way that Moses was describing it to them. Deuteronomy 1:23. The thing pleased me well, and I took 12 men of you, one for each tribe. The idea to send the spies into the country came from the people, and Moses thought it was a good idea, so he asked the Lord for permission, and he received permission and took representatives of each of the tribes. So each tribe sent their spy to go into the land. Deuteronomy 1:24. And they turned and went up into the hill country, and came to the valley of Eshcol, and spied it out. 1:25. And they took the fruit of the land in their hands, and brought it down to us, and brought us word again, and said, it is a good land which the Lord our God gives us. So the spies, when they came back, they saw the wondrous bounty of the land. They knew that the land itself was quite good. But there's more to the story than that. Deuteronomy 1:26. Yet you would not go up, but rebelled against the commandment of the Lord your God. 1:27. You were peevish and discontented in your tents, and said, because the Lord hated us, he brought us forth out of the land of Egypt, to deliver us into the hand of the Amorites, to destroy us. 1:28. To what are we going up? Our brethren have made our hearts melt, saying, the people are bigger and taller than we are. The cities are great and fortified to the heaven. And moreover, we have seen the giant-like sons of the Anakim there. So they knew that the land was good, but 10 of the 12 spies told them that the people that were there were very terrifying and incredibly fortified, and some of them were giants. So they were afraid to take possession of the land. And then they're whining and complaining, because that's what the Israelites did on this journey. That they came out of Egypt just to be killed up here. And Moses tried to reason with them, as we'll see, but it didn't work out very well. Deuteronomy 1:29. Then I said to you, dread not, neither be afraid of them. 1:30. The Lord your God, who goes before you, he will fight for you, just as he did for you in Egypt before your eyes. 1:31. And in the wilderness, where you have seen how the Lord your God bore you, as a man carries his son, in all the way that you went, until you came to this place. So Moses was trying to convince the people that they could go into the promised land. And he was telling them that God could do it. He could make it happen. And that they saw the different wondrous miracles and great things that the Lord did on their journey up to this point. We have mention of the blessings that occurred along the way. There was times where they didn't have water, and the Lord provided water. There was times when they didn't have food, and the Lord provided manna. There was many events like that along the way, multiple ones. Yet the people didn't believe, and they didn't trust in, and they couldn't accept that God would be able to deliver them from these people, despite Moses saying otherwise. We see an interesting comparison here in the way that the Lord was looking after the people of Israel was the same way that the father would look after his son. There's probably some significance to that. Deuteronomy 1:32. Yet in spite of this word, you did not believe, trust, rely on, and remain steadfast to the Lord your God. 1:33. Who went in the way before you to search out a place, to pitch your tents, in fire by night, to show you by what way you should go, and in the cloud by day. So they wouldn't trust in the Lord, and the Lord was with them every day, guiding them by night, guiding them by day, that they could just rely on and trust on him. But for whatever reason, they couldn't accept him, that he could bring them into the promised land. Deuteronomy 1:34. And the Lord heard your words, and was angered, and he swore. 1:35. Not one of these men of this evil generation shall see that good land which I swore to give to your fathers. So this is the continuation of the story as Moses is explaining to these people about their parents' generation. When they refused to allow the Lord to lead them into the promised land, he said enough, and he decided that they wouldn't get to go into the promised land. This was not for them. Deuteronomy 1:36. Except Joshua, of course, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, he shall see it, and to him and to his children I will give the land upon which he has walked, because he has wholly followed the Lord. The two men mentioned here, Caleb and Joshua, they're going to be able to enter into the promised land. They believed in the Lord. They trusted in the Lord. They were two of the spies that went into the land, and they were the only two spies to say that they could go in there and they could take it. They believed the Lord could make it happen. So the Lord made them exempt from the punishment on the rest of the Israelites. Deuteronomy 1:37. The Lord was angry with me also for your sakes, and said, you shall not enter Canaan. So the people of Israel, they wandered the wilderness for 40 years for that generation to die out. Moses is placing his lot with the people that rejected the Lord and did not believe in and trust in the Lord. Moses was punished for a different event when he misrepresented the Lord to the people by not trusting in him and doing his own thing. But the end result's the same, that he does not get to enter into the promised land, and he's here explaining this to the new generation, and they're right on the edge of going in there. So now they know what fate is to befall Moses, what is going to happen sooner rather than later. Deuteronomy 1:39. But Joshua, son of Nun, who stands before you, he shall enter there. Encourage him, for he shall cause Israel to inherit it. I don't know if this was the first time Moses let the people know that he was not going to enter into the promised land. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Maybe people heard of this before and they forgot or weren't really listening, paying attention, and this would probably be something to make them sit up straight when they see this news here. Either way, we're going to see Joshua putting on the mantle of Moses, taking the position from him. He is going to lead the people of Israel into the promised land and drive out the natives that are there so that they can take the land for a possession as the Lord has given them. Deuteronomy 1:39. Moreover, your little ones, whom you said would become a prey, and your children who at this time cannot discern between good and evil, they shall enter Canaan, and to them I will give it, and they shall possess it. So this is a continuation of a thought process from previously, when the Israelites were rejecting the idea of going into the promised land, when they were afraid of the people that were already there. They were afraid that the people that were there were going to capture their children or kill their children or make slaves of them or do whatever nasty things that the people would do. But because they wandered the desert for 40 years, all their children grew up, and now their children are going to be the ones that take the promised land. So there's some degree of irony there. It's really quite funny when you think about it, that God is going to use the people that they were using as an excuse, as the method of completing his task. Deuteronomy 1:40. But as for you, turn and journey into the wilderness by the Red Sea. So at first, when the people rejected the Lord to entering into the promised land, and he said that they're not going to ever enter into the promised land, he casts them away. He sends them out into the wilderness. But this isn't the end of it, as we'll see here. Deuteronomy 1:41. Then you said to me, we have sinned against the Lord. We will go up and fight, as the Lord our God commanded us. And you girded on every man his battle weapons, and thought it a simple matter to go up into the hill country. 1:42. And the Lord said to me, say to them, do not go up or fight, for I am not among you, lest you be dangerously hurt by your enemies. 1:43. So I spoke to you, and you would not hear, but rebelled against the commandment of the Lord, and were presumptuous, and went up into the hill country. 1:44. Then the Amorites who lived in that hill country came out against you, and chased you as bees do, and struck you down in Seir as far as Hormah. So when they first hear the news that the Lord is abandoning them, they change their mind. They want to go into the promised land. They're ready to go. But the Lord says no. But they're going to try anyway. So they go up and they go to battle and they lose spectacularly. Moses tries to warn them that they can't go into the promised land now that they've betrayed the Lord. But they don't listen. Deuteronomy 1:45. And you returned and wept before the Lord, but the Lord would not heed your voice or listen to you. 1:46. So you remained in Kadesh. Many days you remained there. So a very sad event took place here, and they're kind of moping around all sad afterwards. They want to rebuild the relationship with the Lord. They don't really have a path to do that. But we're going to see where this is going to go in the next chapter.